This is an interview with George Molinari, Comfort Inn, Brooklyn, New York. It is the 19th of March, 2003, 8:50 a.m. The interviewers are Mike Russert and Wayne Clark. Could you give me your full name, date of birth, and place of birth, please?
Okay, it's George Molinari. Place of birth was Brooklyn, and date of birth was October 17th, 1927.
Okay. What was your educational background before you entered the service?
I finished high school with a GED diploma. I left high school when I was 17. I entered in the Navy. And I hadn't completed my high school education, so I completed in the military.
Okay. Where were you, and what do you remember when you heard about Pearl Harbor?
Well, as I wrote up on the letter that I had sent in, I was at the skating ring on Empire Boulevard in Brooklyn, and the loudspeaker, over the loudspeaker came an announcement that all military personnel report back to their base immediately. And nobody knew what happened. And then maybe later on, maybe a half hour later on after that, they kept repeating all military personnel report back. And finally, we found out that the head Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor.
What was your reaction to that? Do you remember?
Well, I knew I was dumbfounded because I couldn't believe, and that fact that, like I said, I never even heard of Pearl Harbor at that time. You know, I was a young kid.
Yeah.
I didn't even know where the Hawaiian Islands were, believe it or not. So it was, you know, just confusing because I didn't know where it was and what it was, you know. And then, until then, finally, when I got home, there was on the broadcast on the radio about every 15 or 20 minutes they were breaking in with news bulletins, and then that's how I learned about it.
Did you were you drafted or did you enlist?
No, I enlisted on my 17th birthday.
Okay. Why did you select the Navy?
Well, I had 3 brothers in the Army at that time, and I just felt I wanted to go into the Navy. I didn't want to go into the Army. I didn't want to start humping on the ground. I figured if I would do anything, I would rather be on a ship or part of a naval operation.
Okay. Could you tell us about where you enlisted and?
Yeah, I enlisted in Brooklyn. My mother, who was born in Italy and came over here, she couldn't talk English too well. So when I went down to enlist, I had to take her down because she had a sign, and she really couldn't write her name very well. So I had an Irish petty officer there that enlisted me. So meantime, I'm trying to rush my mother to sign the papers, and he grabbed me by the neck and he put me on the side and he said, "Leave your mother alone." Anyhow, make a long story short, she signed me in at 17. And I was the 4th son that she put into the service. The other, like I said, my other 3 brothers had been into the Army, or were in the Army at the time.
Okay. Where did you go for your basic training?
I went to Sampson Naval Training Station.
When did you go there?
In October 44. I graduated from there, went to Camp Perry, Virginia for advanced training, and then from Camp Perry, Virginia, we went to San Bruno, California. And then from San Bruno, we shipped out.
Did you get any specialty training?
Well, yeah, I was assigned to the Seabees. Actually, they wanted volunteers, and I went into the Seabees with a couple of the fellows that I was with, and we went to heavy equipment school as far as like any heavy equipment, and then from there they shipped us to San Bruno for combat training, and then we went over.
Did you go over as a unit?
Yeah.
What was your unit?
Logistics Support Company 58.
Did you go in a convoy or a single ship?
Yeah, no, it was in the convoy. We were on a converted Liberty ship. In fact, we were on the water for over 60 days. It was unbelievable.
Now,
But
was this your
experience.
first real time on a ship?
Yeah, yeah. And then, you know, everybody was, like the first couple of days, everybody was sick, and you just couldn't, if you sat someplace, you were afraid somebody was going to get sick on top of you. It was bad, you know, but...
Now, was this your first real time away from home?
Yeah.
How did you feel about that?
Well,
Only 17 and...
you know when it gets you is when you're alone. Basically during the day or when you're active, it doesn't bother. But when you're laying down in the bunk and you're all alone and you realize that, that's when it usually gets you. When you have the time to think about it. And normally during the day you don't think about it because you don't have the time.
Did you ever write to your brothers?
Oh yeah, I had my brother Al, who was in the first draft in 1940. He was with the 27th Division. So when I hit Okinawa, I found out that his unit was on Okinawa. They had hit the northern end of the island. And I got into island mail from him, so I knew whereabouts he was. So I asked my commanding officer if I could make arrangements to go meet him. And finally we did. He came down. He spent about 3 or 4 days with me. And that's the first time I had seen him since 1940. That was over 4 years, almost 5 years. And we had he was all yellow from Atabrin. At that time they were taking Atabrin for malaria. So we had a good visit, and finally when he left, as I put in my thing, when he left, he went up the hill and he went to the CP where they were going to supply a Jeep with 2 guys to ride shotgun for him. To take him back to his unit. And he waved and I waved, and that was the last time I saw him. He was killed 8 days later.
How about your other brothers?
Well, one of my oldest brothers, Joe, he was he didn't go overseas, but he was with the special services in he was a motion picture projectionist, so he was with the USO and traveled. And my other brother, Frank, he went in the invasion of the Aleutian Islands. And he was wounded, and that's about it.
Okay, so with your support unit, you took your convoy. Where did you go?
Well, we stopped off, I was zigzagging because it was a constant zigzag. At one point, we did stop at the Marshall Islands. They gave us a beer party at one time. We were able to get off the ship because, like I said, we were 60 days on the ship. And it was a disaster. And that was it. We just zigzagged, and finally the invasion
Of
Okinawa.
Okinawa, okay. Were you in the first wave?
No, third wave. We were assigned to the 1st Marine Division.
Okay. What was it like going in? How did you go in on the...
Well, it's like I said, everybody was scared. I mean, I know I was scared, but with things going on, you really didn't have time to think about it. And then when the ramp went down and we all got ashore, it wasn't as confusing as, like I would say, that happened at D-Day with Normandy. It wasn't as confusing. But it was there, and we moved inland, and then we established our perimeter and everything else, and then as soon as the Marines took a section of ground, and we come in with the big stuff, with the big trucks and the bulldozers and stuff, and they leveled out for an we set up an air base, or airstrip was going to be put down. So.
Is this what you did then?
Yeah.
You went in to establish an airfield?
Right. And also to clear out pockets, buildings, or suspected strongholds that they had, which we used the bulldozers to bring in to level, It was basically, that's what it was.
Could you explain how you would construct an airfield? Do you remember?
Well, I remember they had a level of ground as much, and it was at that time there was quite a few bomb craters, so they had to be filled in. So they had the big stuff that we had brought in. We had quite, believe it or not, most of the fellas were in their early, late teens or early 20s, and none of us maybe 1 or 2 had experience in construction. The rest of us didn't. So whatever we learned, they taught us. And it was a challenge. Well, they bring in the big stuff, and you bring the bulldozers, and you level the ground. Then they had another come in with the metal, there were metal strips, 12, depending on the length, and they would lay them down, attach them, and that's what actually would be the landing strip, because the ground was not, it was sandy, and you would have no actually reinforced ground for the planes to land on. So this stuff was put down. So that was basically what we did.
How long did it take to establish an airfield like that?
Oh, they had it, we did it within 3 to 4 hours, we had it big enough for them to land fighter planes, so.
Did you have any problems with snipers or mortar
Yeah,
fire?
yeah, that was, well, we had a perimeter. Actually, they had, every section had their own, I guess you'd call it perimeter defense guard, you know, that's what we did, we set up. And their specific job was just to observe the terrain, and if there was a sniper fire from any direction, that they would, you know, bring fire on that direction. But, yeah, there was, in fact, we lost a few of them with sniper fire the first couple of days.
What did you do after you established the airfield there? Did you?
Yeah, well, then as
What
soon as
other-
they established it, then they moved in, and then we set up a base camp, you know. And then whenever if they needed assistance in any big stuff to bring in, that's what we would do. They would call us, and we would bring in the big stuff and clear stuff out, level it up. And we had to set up our own perimeter around the camp. And as they moved forward, we moved forward with them. So it was basically constantly going in, working with them, and then once they cleared an area, they would pack up and go to another position, and that's basically what we did, and we established base camps. And then the main thing was the airport, the airfields, to get airfields laid down.
Did you lay out more than one airfield?
Yeah.
Okay. Were you ever involved in taking out like pillboxes or so on with your equipment?
Well, we weren't directly. We had big, heavy equipment that they used, believe it or not, they used the blades of the track vehicle, they used the blades to bring it up, that if they moved forward to a point, they would move forward with the blades elevated so that against small arms fire, but it wouldn't protect you against any. And actually the Marines are the ones that did that. We didn't, you know, we had our own, when we set up our own base camp, and we had to set up our own perimeter and go on patrol, so basically that would be whatever combat situation that we saw was. But the Marines were the ones that actually went with the heavy stuff at the TNT or whatever they used at the time to pack it into the caves and stuff.
How long were you on Okinawa?
Oh, I think the war was ended in August 45, I guess. Well, the invasion was April 1st until probably August. Because once the war was over, it was only a matter of 3 or 4 weeks, and then we got transferred to fleet replacement. So,
What were your other assignments after Okinawa?
well, I was put on a heavy cruiser to Los Angeles. They flew us into Hong Kong, and of course, because they broke up the LSD-58 was broken up, and they put us into fleet replacement, and then we got assigned to I was assigned to a heavy cruiser, USS Los Angeles, which was operating out of Hong Kong.
What were your assignments there?
I was in the service division.
Okay. What was your reaction to the death of President Roosevelt?
Well, I guess it would be like losing a father. I mean, don't forget, I was 17, or you know, when he passed away. I think I was 17 or just turned 18, whatever it was. And I always respected the man, to the fact that he had the disability he had. I felt, I guess you would say like a father, you know, a son lost a father. That's basically what I felt.
If you don't mind me asking, how did you hear about the death of your brother? You were still in Okinawa when he...
What happened was, he was supposed to go home on rotation. So when he left, I was riding home, and I wrote to my sister, because my mother, you know, couldn't understand me, she doesn't write. And I told her that I had met Al, we spent time together, and that he's due for rotation in about a week. So you should be, you know, he should be home soon. In the meantime, I didn't hear anything for about, maybe a good 3 weeks, or maybe even longer. I can't really recollect, but then I got a letter from my sister, and I opened it up, and then she told me that he was killed, and she got notified, and I didn't know about it. So what I did was contact his unit and requested permission to go up to the unit, which I did, and my commanding officer supplied a Jeep, and 2 fellows were riding with me. And we went up, and I met his unit, you know, his first sergeant, and some of the fellows that were in his unit, in his company. And I spent overnight there, and they explained to me, they told me exactly what happened. You know? So it was kind of a kick in the ass, excuse the expression.
How did you react when you heard about the atomic bombs, the dropping of the atomic bombs?
Well, I felt it was justified. I felt that if we would have went into Japan with the way they're fanatics as far as their country, just like we are, in respect, that we would have lost a hell of a lot more people. That's my end, and I had no regrets, and I think it was the right thing to do. Anything to save our lives, American lives. That's the way I felt.
When were you discharged?
40. No, wait. I discharged in 48. 48.
Now I noticed it said did you serve in the National Guard?
After the Navy, I joined the Army for 4 years, and I spent 4 years in the Army.
So from 48 to 50?
48 to 52.
Were you ever activated for Korea?
I was in Germany at that time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was with the 1st Infantry Division in Germany.
Okay, what kind of service did you do in Germany?
Occupation.
How'd you compare being in the Army to the Navy?
Well, like I said, the only reason why I actually went into the Army is while I was in the service in the Navy, I got locked in a compartment during an air raid, and I swore I would never be in that circumstances again. You know, I don't mind if I can see what's going on, it wouldn't bother me. But when you're locked up, per se, and I mean actually locked up in a compartment, and there's nowhere to go, and they're dropping stuff all over the place, I said no way. So that's when I got out, I said no. If I'm going to go back in, then I'm going to go into the Army, but I wouldn't go back into the. I didn't want to get confined. Let me put it that way, because even aboard ship on a crew, you were confined to a point. You know?
Okay. Did you, when you were discharged, or in the reserves, did you ever use the GI Bill, make use of the GI Bill?
Yes, I did. I went to school. I did actually it wasn't school per se. I was a plumber. I went into plumber's apprentice, and I used the GI Bill to get my all the tools and everything else, and my apprentice training, and they actually paid for the whole thing. So I actually became an apprentice plumber, and then.
Did you ever make use of the 5220 Club?
Yeah, I did. I don't remember for how long I did, but I did use it. Yeah.
Did you join any veterans organizations after?
Oh yeah. Well, I belonged to the American Legion. I actually didn't join any organizations until after I went to the Guard, the National Guard. Then I joined whatever, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, the American Legion, Association, United States Army, all of these, which I'm a member now.
Did you ever keep in contact with anyone that you served with?
Oh yeah. In fact, in the thing letter I sent you, there was this was 1999, I believe it was. I can't think it was 99. I get a phone call, and this fella's talking, asking me questions if I was a George Molinari that was with the 11th National Seabees Battalion and the Logistics Support Company, and I'm saying yeah. And it's finally this fella Tony Nestor, who me and him were pretty tight, and he said that we've been trying to get a hold of some of the people, and this is 54 years. We haven't seen each other or heard from each other. So he was able to get on a hotline, like a conference call with me and another fellow from Newburgh, New York, this fellow Joe Pasuti. And the three of us were like, we couldn't believe that we were talking to each other after all these years. So we decided to get together. So in the resume I sent you, and the pictures, after we met at the, not the Ramada, yeah, I think it was the Ramada. Yeah, the Ramada Inn up in Connecticut. And there was maybe about 12 or 8 or 12 of us, I'm not sure, I think, because some of them couldn't show, some came late. But we had a reunion, and they were very good to us. They gave us our own room, they gave us the girls to help us out as far as any copies we wanted to make, because everybody bought pictures and maps, and so that was some experience.
Well, you want to tell us about these pictures that you sent
Yeah,
us?
well,
You could hold them up a little bit to the camera and...
this was actually the reunion, right? There was an article they put in the paper that they're back in the Navy. Now, this is a group, there was 3 or 4 more that weren't in the picture. And this was basically what was left of the outfit, because when he researched, a lot of the fellows that we had contacted, we got notification back from their families that they had passed away.
How many were in your unit?
250 was a complement. I forget the officer complement, but it was basically 250 men. And this one was, I don't know if you can see it, but this one was part of the original of these fellas here. This was on Okinawa in 1945, and 4 of us in here were here.
Where are you in this one?
In this one, I am,
Yes.
well, let's see, that's me right there in the front. And then this fellow Joe Pasuti, who I keep in touch with, he's in Newburgh, New York. And Tony Nesta. We keep in touch. We at least talk to each other maybe once every 2 months, and we send cards, and we're trying to get together again, but it's kind of tough, you know, when you get up to a certain age, and then my wife isn't feeling that well, and the travel is kind of rough, you know. So we're trying. If I can get my son to come with me, I don't mind, and then I would take him to these different places to visit. But like I said, there's only about maybe 12 of us left. But it was a good experience. I mean,
How do you think it affected your life?
well, what, the
Your
service?
service, yes.
I think every kid should go in. I really do. I think every kid that hits 17 should go in and serve at least 2 years in the military, because you grow up awful fast. I mean, I don't regret one bit of the service time that I did. Not one bit. And even though all the hardships and everything else and the sad things that went on, but I don't regret it. And I think I think it'll make a better man of you. That's the way I feel about it. Because how can I explain? I came from a family with 12 children. I was the youngest. So it wasn't easy growing up. And with a lot of things that we didn't have, you know. But I found that going into the military and taught me discipline. It taught me what things were important. At least that's the way I felt about it. So I don't regret it one bit.
How many years did you have in the National Guard?
Well, I went in the National Guard in '52, and I didn't get out until '87.
Wow. So you retired
Yeah,
from there. What rank were you when you got out?
Lieutenant Colonel.
Terrific.
Yeah, I got a direct commission when I went in, and I was very happy with the Guard. In fact, I used to meet a couple of fellows, friends of mine that were in the regular Army, and when I was an advisor with the Guard for a short period, before I went into the Guard, I was an advisor. I was told myself I could put the National Guard up against any regular Army unit, because we were, believe me, good people.
And whereabouts did you drill?
Well, our armory was on 14th Street and 8th Avenue, the old 14th Regimental Armory.
Oh, yes.
And I was assigned to 2 Corps Artillery, and then from 2 Corps Artillery I went into it was actually a 155 unit, right? And we were at 1402 8th Avenue here in Brooklyn. And it was a beautiful armory, beautiful. They had parquet floors and everything else. And then they decided to change the designation of the unit, of a towed unit, to a self-propelled. So the self-propelled would no way get in, and so they had to rip up all the parquet floor, the basketball court, and they poured concrete over it to support these self-propelled 155s. They really, what a disaster that was. But anyhow, I don't know what happened, but we never got the self-propelled. They made us a towed unit, so And I stayed with the Guard, and I went into the 1st of the 187th and the 2nd of the 187th, with all artillery. And I got my own battalion. I had it for about almost 2 years. And then I retired.
By any chance, did you know a lieutenant or a captain named Rob Van Haslin?
Van Haslin, the name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he used to work with us. That's why I had asked. He was, I think he drilled down here somewhere at one point back in the
Well,
80s.
actually, the only armories that were in Brooklyn, you had the one at 1402 8th Avenue, then you had the one on Marcy Avenue, and the other one on not Vanderbilt, I forget what street. Yeah, I think it was Vanderbilt Avenue.
Mhm.
But the name sounds familiar.
Did you have any other pictures or anything with you, or?
No, basically
Okay.
that was it.
Okay,
You know,
sometimes veterans have other pictures. Okay, well, thank
Okay,
you
thank you very much.
very much.
okay.